Hello and welcome to another week of 20 Years Behind, the series where nobody watches it but I do it anyway because I entertain myself and that's good enough, god damn it. So this week we're reviewing Lauryn Hill with the album The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Now prior to listening to this album, I'm not a big hip-hop R&B fan. I thought with it being number one in the charts 20 years ago, then maybe it's gonna win me over. It didn't. I understand, I've read about this album and I understand that for its time it was very revolutionary. Obviously it was 1998, it was 20 years ago, where hip hop was kind of very male domineering, had lots of kind of like fuck them bitches lyrics and stuff, whereas this was kind of one of the first big albums by a female rap artist to counter that. So I get that. It's very similar in essence to when I, as someone who was born in 1990, if I listen to the Beatles now, I think they sound fine. I can appreciate that lots of bands these days wouldn't be around if it wasn't for them, but their music, listening to it now, I don't find it amazing. I find it good, but I don't find it as amazing as people who were there at the time, who went through the experiences that were there at the time where, oh my god, what's this new sound? Which I think may be the thing here. Like, I understand how big it was at the time, whereas I guess the idea of this series is seeing if these songs are still good now and if their age shows. Now, I'm not necessarily saying its age is shown, I'm not saying it sounds like an old album, but I think if this isn't an album that's going to kind of win me over to listening to more hip-hop. I do like some hip-hop artists. I like Childish Gambino. This is the internet that got me into him. I quite like Macklemore.
My man LD Lil Dicky.
I do listen to some hip-hop, just not a lot, and in general I wouldn't say I'm a fan, and being completely honest, didn't even realise, I got up to the song Tell Him, which is the final song on the album, and when that started I just thought, I've heard enough. No music's going to be for everybody, and this album just wasn't for me. This is the first album that I've done on this series where I've just really not gotten into it, and it's definitely the first album where the other ones I listened through several times because I was quite enjoying them. I couldn't even make it all the way through this album once without just getting bored. This is entirely subjective, this is entirely my opinion, and other people may find this album incredible, but for me, it didn't really engage me. I'm maybe not the demographic they were aiming for, someone that was born in 1990, maybe, I don't know. I was worrying when going into this series that if I'm only doing things that were top of the charts, I'm only going to be reviewing things that are good enough to sell that many, so I thought, this is going to get boring, I'm just going to kind of say every album's great. But, 3 episodes in and I'm not taken in by this one. Maybe it's just me. There was only, considering it was a chart-topping album, one song on there that I recognised. That thing, that thing, that thing, that thing, that thing, that thing. Nothing else on the album was even recognisable to me, and I think part of the fun of listening to albums from 20 years ago is the nostalgia that you get with it, and kind of taking you back to your childhood, whereas with this it was, for me, just like listening to a new album because, for the most part, I didn't recognise anything. And if it was a new album, it's not one that I would listen to again. Again, it's just me. I will be writing up a full, blog review as I do it every time. I've not gotten around to that yet, it'll probably be some point today I'll do it. But, in the meantime, if you want to have... I'm saying if you want, there's no one who watches this show. If anybody is there watching this show, if you want to look at the official charts from 20 years ago, see what was new out for next week, which will be 13th of October, then let me know. I'm not necessarily going for the number one album of the week, I'm just going for one that's new out at the time and one of the high-hitting albums. So, stick around. If you do watch this show, if there's anybody out there, pop a comment below. Subscribe if you want. If you don't want to, then don't. It's just me sitting here bitching on albums that are 20 years old. I get it. It's not for everyone. And ciao for now, and I'll see you next week. That'll do.